Hello everyone. So I want to talk to you about the next feature in Jane and John packages. So as you might know, this is a free package on Unity Asset Store. The standard render pipeline is free actually. There is also another version which is Universal Render Pipeline, and that is a paid asset. So this is about the feature that when you wear a hat, I use a technique to switch the meshes, so the hat will show the appropriate hair mesh, appropriate with itself actually. I'll show you how in a few seconds. So it doesn't, the hair doesn't go out of hat and poke through, etc. So I'm just going to open the project now. So this is the free version, but as I said, the URP version has the same feature too. So let me start the scene and show you what I'm talking about. So you see, there is this base meshes of the hair now, and there are also other versions of these meshes, and I'm designating them by tags. So in this recipe, the hair recipe, there are actually two slots now, and it'll be probably more in the future. And this one is when you don't wear a hat, and if you actually equip a hat, uh, then you'll see that it doesn't poke through the hair because uh, it just switched the mesh underneath and used the so-called hairline 1 version of the same hair. So I'll just explain how it is done in a minute. So I just want to show you that the slot is on the hair recipe, but what causes it to change is actually defined by the hats here. So when you have another kind of hair, you'll see that this now has that hair's hairline 1 version on the screen. So if I just remove the hat, you'll see that the meshes just switch to the original one. And it's the same with the last hair, which is, the short hair, and it does the same thing. It just switches the meshes and puts the appropriate mesh on the screen. And how does it do it? So let's stop the scene and have a look at the recipes that are doing it. So what I want to talk to you about is, first, I use some utility recipes to make it work without any hat. So what do I mean by this? So let's have a look at the hair recipe, and you'll see that there are two slots on the hair recipe here. One is the normal base hair, and if you see the tag of it, tags, you'll see that it is tagged as hair base. And there's also a long hair hat 1 slot with a hairline 1 tag. And there are two different meshes on the same recipe, and actually it doesn't show both on the character when you're not equipping that. It's kind of weird, right? So how I'm doing it is, I had this utility recipes for different areas on the body. This technique is not specific to hats only. You can use it anywhere on any mesh. So I actually have this five different um, utility recipes that's doing the same thing, using the same technique to hide different stuff. Uh, I currently have only recipes that's using this hair one and the socks one. The others are for future use, but it's the same thing. So what it's doing. So it is actually, it doesn't have any mesh or overlays on it. It's just to hide some tags by default. So you see that standard Jane here has this utility recipes equipped by default. So this is also on the prefabs of the characters. Uh, when you use the prefab, they'll have by default this utility stuff. Don't remove them; it'll just mess this hair hiding thing. But yeah, so what is actually doing is, it's, as you can see here, it's hiding all the hairline version of the slots. Currently I'm using only hairline 1, but there will be hairline 2 and 3 definitely, and 4 and 5 maybe, or maybe you can use them for your custom hiding stuff. But as you can see, it's hiding everything but the hair base. So by default these are equipped, so what it does is it's hiding everything but the base mesh here. So this is how it's working by default. And then you equip the hat, and for some reason the base mesh goes away and the hairline 1 version comes in. How does it happen? This thing is always on the character, so it'll be always hiding hairline 1. So how am I actually showing hairline 1 and hiding the hair base? That's on the baseball cap recipe here. So first thing it's doing is it's actually suppressing that base utility wardrobe slot. So it hides, actually it's, by suppressing the utility recipe, it just allows every tag to be shown. So there's no more hiding on hairline 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then it defines its own tags to hide. So it hides hair base 2, 3, 4, and 5. So as you can see that I don't have hairline 1 here. Hairline 1 is supposed to be shown with this hat. So it's hiding all the other while suppressing the one that hides everything except the base mesh. So when you equip this one, you force the base mesh to be gone, and you just leave the hairline 1 to be visible except every other tag here. So since, as long as you have the tags on the slots defined, as you can see on the long hair here, I have the hairline 1 version here, which has the tag hairline 1, and I have the base slot here, which has the hair base tag. So this is how it works. And when you run this thing, it's switching the meshes and make it all work together. So I want to actually say an additional thing about this one. This is how the hair works, but this is a technique that you can use in other places too. You don't just, it's just not about the hair, right? So let's say you have a boot that goes all the way up here, right? So so imagine that you have a boot going up all the way to the somewhere below the knees. So when you equip this thing, you'll probably have clipping issues with the pants here, and you can use some mesh hide assets provided by UMA to hide the poking through mesh of the pant, but usually it's hard to make it work at the intersection where the boot end and the pants start. So for that kind of thing, especially if the pant is bulky, you will have a hard time fitting that to the boot in that case. So what you can do is you can use the, this time using the other utility one, which is the height pants one here I provided, you can actually have this boot and have two different meshes on the pant. Uh, one is going into the boot and one is the original one. And you can use the same technique to hide one and show the other when you equip the boot and make it work. So I added 5 different utility recipe for this purpose, and one is supposed to be used by hair, one is supposed to be used by the pants, and one is supposed to be used by the sleeves of the shirt, and one is supposed to be used by the socks. It's about the toes, and the last one is supposed to be used by the waist. So imagine something that you have a bulky pant that pokes through your shirts, and you can fit it into the shirts like this one here, and you want to have the shirts tucked in instead of going over the pants. So what you can do is just create different shirt meshes and use this technique to, when you equip that bulky pant, just switch the mesh to the tucked in shirt version, etc. So this doesn't even need to be on the edges of the meshes, like the sleeves or waist or bottom side of the pants or top of the hair. It can be anywhere, right? So you can use the same technique. So let's say you have a holster that you want to equip here, and holster has a belt on its bottom side, and you want to actually, you have a bulky pant and you don't want it to clip through, you want to have it squeezed at that point and have some wrinkles there, etc. That's great. So you can just create a second slot and use this technique here and make it work. So this is kind of a universal technique that you can, whenever you need more than one mesh version with to be compatible with another recipe, you can use this technique to get away with it. The final thing I want to show you is how it's set up in Blender. So what you see is my content creation pack Blender file, but you can use it with the with provided FBX file of the character, and you can figure it out on your own. But the creation pack has this hat in it, and the hair versions of the current Jane and John version. You can find it all here, and you can see how I actually did it. Let me just quickly explain the process here. So what I did is actually at the start, I started with this, right? So I have this long hair poking through the hat. I have the hat here, and it needs to go in here, into the hat, and doesn't poke all the way, all around the cap. So I started with duplicating this mesh and hiding the original one, and then start modifying it and removed actually a few vertices, faces actually, like, I'm sorry, faces, oops, faces, and then started pushing this stuff into the uh, hat hat mesh. So you can, as you know, you can use the O key to switch between the modifying the locations or scales, rotations, whatever, of the vertex, selected vertices, and the neighbors. So if you just move this thing on the x-axis, and if you hit the O key before starting, you will see that you can use the mouse wheel to change the effect diameter and just push stuff together. So what I did is I moved a lot of things until it just looks right. So something like this, right? So and something like this. So you see the point, right? So I worked a bit to fit this in, and then I have another version of the hair that works with this kind of hat. So what I did is then I just exported this mesh and added as a second slot with a hairline 1 tag to the hair recipe. And since I set the other recipe to hide the base one and show this one, it just worked. So as I said, this is available on the content creation pack, and there will be at least 2 other versions for the hat types. Let me say, one will be the hairline 1, which is this one, and the other will be something like a mid one, which covers the ears and stuff and leaves the back of the hair out of it. And the third one will be probably something going all the way down to neck and maybe leave some long hair out of it at the end. Maybe something like a motorcycle helmet or something. So this is my current plan, and this content pack will have, uh, even if it doesn't have the original mesh that is workable or that is that represents a recipe in the pack, it'll be at least a template that you can use to model your different versions of hair for yourself. So I wanted to let you know that it will be available. So as the final stuff, I would want you to I would like to show you this. So this one is not updated yet, but the submit I have submitted with the file with the hat one. So the content creation pack will have this stuff I am showing you today in a few days probably, and as you can see, the Jane and John package and URP version of the Jane and John package is not updated yet too. So the hats will be in a few days available for you with those packages. And one final thing, the URP package doesn't have it yet, but with the next version, which will be in a few days, you will have the Stunner content creation pack in the URP pack also. So URP, if you have the URP pack or you buy the URP pack, you will automatically have the content creation pack, which is part of it. So that'll be all today. Thank you very much. Have a good one.